INCAP, International Cultural Arts Program, where we learn about different cultures and different holidays and people through the most influential and creative and iconic minds and people in their industry. My name is Amber Mackenzie, and today we're going to be talking to the legend and pumpkin master, Chris Soria. That's how you say your last name, right?
Soria.
Soria. Okay. So how are you today?
I'm good. Thank you for having me. It's an exciting time of year for me.
Of course. So I know that you've already told me, but could you tell everybody here about Maniac Pumpkin and how it got started?
Sure. Maniac Pumpkins is a pumpkin carving company, and we do a variety of different types of art and services, including pumpkin carving, but as well as time-lapse photography, in-person events, virtual classes, and all sorts of different services and products that revolve around pumpkins. And our season, goes from September to all the way up until Thanksgiving. October is certainly a really busy time for us, but it's a full seasonal business, and we carve a lot of pumpkins.
Awesome. So where are you located again?
We are located this year at Ridge Hill, which is in Westchester, New York. We have a really big space. Every year, we acquire a different pop-up space in which we carve our pumpkins and run our operation. And it's different every year. So, every year is kind of a last minute scramble to move into a space and get it ready for a pumpkin business, and then, get the wheels turning. So we have a really exciting space this year.
Nice. So what inspired you to start carving pumpkins professionally and not just like as a hobby or something you do for fun and at
Sure.
Halloween time?
Yeah, well, definitely started off as something to do just for fun, and being excited about Halloween time and being given an excuse to have fun making a costume or coming up with really cool decorations. At the time, Mark and I, were young artists, working at a lot of bars and restaurants in the city. And we would also have like really cool Halloween parties, and we would come up with props and different decorations, as well as carved pumpkins to bring to the party or have on the bar. And we had a lot of fun with it. People seemed to really enjoy them and get really excited about them. So over a couple of years, we had carved a number of pumpkins, and our first big piece of press was in Wired magazine, and they did an article about our geeked out pumpkins. We did a lot of Star Wars characters and pop culture references like that. And then our first big client, I believe in 2008, was the New York Yankees. When they found out they were making it to the World Series, they ordered 50 pumpkins with their World Series logo on it for each of the skyboxes at Yankee Stadium for Game 1, which at the time was, in 2 or 3 days. And, we were a small operation. It was really just me or Mark. Sorry. It was really just me or Mark, carving out of our small Brooklyn apartment. And, we called some friends over to help us out, and we fulfilled a pretty substantial order for, a corporate client that we were excited to do something for. And that was our first big gig. And, after that, we continued. We went from doing 50 to 100 pumpkins a year to hundreds of pumpkins a year. And now, we probably carve, well over 1,000 pumpkins in a season, and, offer a variety of services beyond just a pumpkin. We're doing a lot of in-house photography and, high quality video and time lapse video content of the pumpkins we're carving and whatnot, you know, for advertising purposes and for social media purposes, as well as the classes and live demos. So it's a very multimedia, multifaceted operation that revolve around, you know, the pumpkin.
Yeah. You talked about having 50 pumpkins in 2 to 3 days. What is the largest amount of pumpkins you've had to carve for an event?
We have, I'm trying to think. We've carved, you know, over 100 pumpkins for some clients. You know, there's instances where, like for example, the Standard Hotel also will order 50 to 100 pumpkins for their hotel. And we also do a lot of jack-o'-lanterns, you know, traditional triangle eyes, nose in the mouth jack-o'-lanterns. Sometimes we get orders, you know, by the dozen, you know, you know, up to 100 or more, just traditional jack-o'-lanterns that need to be carved for something that, you know, we carve and provide also. So, yeah, the numbers get high sometimes. And then we also carve giant, you know, all different types of pumpkins. So, you know, there's also giant pumpkins that can weigh over 1,000 pounds, even over 2,000 pounds that, for certain events like Luna Park at Coney Island and events where there's, you know, these giant pumpkins that we're carving are really exciting things for us to do also.
Oh, wow. Is it like, how do you like take all of the guts out of a 2,000-pound pumpkin? I feel like that's just so gross to me.
Yeah. Well, it takes hands, but the giant pumpkins, believe it or not, well, we're doing more of a sculptural process. So we have different styles of carving that we do. A lot of the carving that we do, it does involve scooping the pumpkin and lighting it from the inside. And then we also do sculptural pumpkins in which we're not scooping the pumpkin, but we're, you know, really kind of removing the pumpkin relief style to create, you know, a sculpture within the pulp of the pumpkin. So the giant pumpkins don't get scooped, but they do have giant pumpkin seeds that oftentimes the farmers will like to remove from the pumpkin before providing the pumpkin to somebody, because of course it's those giant pumpkin seeds that make and grow more giant pumpkins. So they're very valuable to the farmers.
Wonderful. So do you grow your own pumpkins, like some of your own pumpkins, or do you just buy them all?
Yeah, well, I can honestly say that I have grown one pumpkin this year.
Woo!
It grew in my backyard, and the landscaper thought it was a watermelon. And I told him, I was like, no, because it was green still. And I was like, I guarantee it's a pumpkin. And lo and behold, you know, I cut it off the vine and it turned orange. But we get our pumpkins from a number of different sources. You know, pretty much all local farms. And there's a few farms that we work with, you know, including Sycamore Farms. Shout out to Sycamore Farms. They actually grew. They never used to grow pumpkins. They're not a pumpkin farm, but they did try, you know, growing pumpkins a number of years ago. And over the years, they have been growing pumpkins specifically for Maniac pumpkins. So we get a lot of pumpkins from them.
That is so nice of them. So how long does it normally take you to carve a pumpkin? Because like you said, sometimes you do jack-o'-lanterns, sometimes you do logos. What is like the normal time span for a pumpkin carving?
Yeah, I mean, a pumpkin could take anywhere from an hour to several hours. Typically, you know, more detailed pumpkins, of course, take longer. Like photorealistic portraits, you know, could take longer. Some of the recreations of famous works of art, you know, may take longer, but pretty much all the pumpkins we're certainly carving within a day. And we're also carving them within, you know, 48 hours of when they're needed, since of course it's an ephemeral, perishable product that we're creating. You know, if 80 pumpkins need to be carved by Friday, we're carving 80 pumpkins on Thursday. So yeah, I mean, we're kind of always constantly racing the clock, and but it makes it exciting.
What is the longest amount of time you've ever spent carving one pumpkin?
I mean, there are the giant pumpkins we will sometimes work on over a couple of days. And even those pumpkins, sometimes there's two of us working on them. So, there'll be two of us working on it all day, one day, and then two of us working on it all day the second day. I would say probably those pumpkins, certainly require a little bit more attention, and also have their bigger canvases to work on in more detail. So, the bigger ones, take longer. And then, the individual ones, for the most part, are always being carved within a day. Sometimes if it's something like a highly detailed family portrait with a lot of different people, and, something like that could certainly take like, 8 to 10 hours.
Oh my, I just had how do you keep them from rotting in that amount of time? Because I know whenever I carve a pumpkin, it like starts rotting right away.
Yeah, and I mean, it quite literally is rotting right away. Once you cut into the pumpkin, and certainly once you scoop the pumpkin, the clock is ticking on the lifespan of that pumpkin. And we tell people the pumpkins will last anywhere from like 2 or 3 days to a week. Sometimes you can, if you get a week out of a pumpkin, you're lucky. But it's definitely one of those things where, if you carve a pumpkin in the beginning of October, it's very highly unlikely that pumpkin will still be around by Halloween. The biggest factor in how long a pumpkin lasts is temperature. So especially if you're somewhere warm, or if there's, a time where, the temperature is particularly warm and you have your pumpkin outside, the pumpkin's going to rot a lot quicker than, if it's kept somewhere cold. And definitely when it's not on display, if you've worked on a pumpkin a lot and you want it to last as long as possible, you could put it in the refrigerator when it's not on display, and it'll last longer if you have room in the refrigerator for a pumpkin.
Of course, I definitely don't. And also living in Los Angeles, my pumpkin's gonna rot very soon. So maybe,
oh yeah, definitely.
Maybe a couple days before Halloween. What is the most difficult carving you've ever had to carve? Because your partner Mike sent me a picture of like this giant pumpkin with, I don't remember what it was for, but it was the skeleton on this pirate ship.
Oh yeah, Mark and I worked on that together.
Yes, that looked so difficult. So like what has been the hardest thing you've ever had to carve?
Yeah, I don't know what I feel like. An example like that, is definitely a challenge, because we're trying to do something, we're usually doing something that we've never done before, every time. We've carved plenty of pumpkins, but we've never carved, a skeleton pirate, driving a pirate ship, with a whole bunch of different elements going on. So, we plan it out, of course, and we work on it, in various stages. And, there's certainly a degree of improv that occurs. Sometimes, something we planned might not exactly work out the way we anticipated, and we have to kind of make adjustments, or, come up with a creative solution to fix a problem, or go somewhere with it. So, yeah, I mean, so those giant pumpkins, such as that one, are certainly some of the more challenging ones, but they're also, the more exciting and rewarding ones, because, we're trying something different, and it's really cool to work on something so big, and seeing what you could do with it.
So I should have asked this a long time ago, but how long have you actually been a pumpkin carver, a professional pumpkin carver?
Yeah, well, I've been carving pumpkins for 15, almost 20 years. And I've been a professional pumpkin carver since, since we made the decision to carve, to offer it as a product and take on orders and commissions. And this will be our 13th year as a business.
I feel like that's like your lucky number, right? 13.
13, yeah, it is our lucky number actually.
um, how does one even become a professional pumpkin carver? Like, what advice would you give somebody if they wanted to take this up as a profession?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the artists we work with, including Mark and myself, are artists in other mediums prior to pumpkin carving. So we're painters and illustrators and designers and work in a variety of mediums. And I mean, certain things lend themselves better to this type of work. Actually, a lot of the artists that we work with are muralists and tattoo artists, which there's some similarities with the mediums in that there's a degree of like needing to kind of not work fast, but see certain things through within a single sitting. So muralists and a lot of painters tend to work very fast, and tattoo artists are sitting also with kind of a living canvas that they have to either see through in a sitting or work in stages in a sitting. And artists that are definitely adept in figurative work, portraiture, and being able to make iterations of certain designs. We're doing a lot of commercial work, tend to be good candidates for working in pumpkin.
So I know that you're a painter, but what other forms of art do you do other than painting and carving?
Well, we both do work in a number of different mediums. Certainly, painting is probably the primary one, but we do a lot of drawing and painting. I also work in a lot of mixed media photography, some digital art. We kind of like dabble in a variety of mediums, both analog and digital, to be well-rounded artists. As illustrators and designers, I feel like nowadays you need to kind of be a jack of many trades, even if you're focusing on particular things. For the very sake of just even being able to like photograph your work and make edits, or kind of make a variety of different formats of the art you work in, whether it's like putting art on canvas or putting art on clothing or making it in a digital format. It's very helpful to be kind of familiar with as many different methods and mediums as possible.
I hear that a lot in the art industry. I'm very surrounded in art. My grandma's actually a painter as well. And I've been hearing, I'm an actress, and when I hear from so many different acting coaches and stuff that you have to be so well-rounded. And
Yeah.
whenever I'm like, okay, what more do I need to do for my acting? They're like, actually, you need to live life. Like, go do
Sure.
horseback riding, discover other mediums so that you can be a better actor. And I feel like that's what you're saying with your art as well.
Yeah.
Have you ever
Definitely. I was speaking recently with a friend of mine who also is an actor, and we were just kind of like talking. We were talking shop about like the creative process, but it's like an interesting differentiation in that like I have to have all this stuff, material, canvas, a lot of paint. Obviously for pumpkins, a lot of pumpkins, tools, camera equipment, 6 feet long sheets of plexiglass, like a lot of stuff. And he, in the instance of an actor or a performer, you are the material. So it's like kind of, it's more internalized, and like you have to like build a lot of material in your repertoire, but it's kind of in a different form.
You have to
that
have a lot of
self-contained.
emotional tools and emotional baggage.
Yeah.
um, but I feel like that goes with a lot of creativity because you have to have your own life experiences to really make something that is true for you when you're doing your own thing. Um, so, can you tell us a little bit about your time on Halloween Wars?
Hmm. Yeah, sure. I was on season 1 of Halloween Wars. Uh my team was Skulls of the Abyss, and it was I mean, this was I forget the first year. This is about 7 years or so ago. And up until then, my main approach to pumpkin carving was the etched style where it's lit up inside and whatnot. This was the network's first time working in this format, with a number of different pumpkin carvers. So it wasn't until I like went on the show that I realized I was going to have to change up my style of pumpkin carving to more sculptural. It was a really fun experience. They shot it in LA, and I met a lot of amazing cake and candy artists, as well as other pumpkin carving artists. We made it to round 3 out of 4, and that particular episode, I mean, we definitely deserved to get cut. We kind of screwed up a few things, but I had a really, it's a very stressful atmosphere. It's reality TV. So, of course they're waiting for you to have a nervous breakdown. And there were a few times where, I feel like I, and a lot of people almost did. But yeah, it was still, a fun and positive experience for me. And I enjoyed it. I really love my teammates. And the following year, Mark really kind of studied the format of the show, and he approached it with the goal in mind to win. And he took his team took the prize second season. And he represents that win, and we represent that win proudly. And he is currently Mark Evan is currently the judge on Outrageous Pumpkins on Food Network.
Nice. So if any of you have time, definitely go see Outrageous Pumpkins. I definitely will. So how did you get involved with Halloween Wars? Like, how did this project even come into your repertoire?
Yeah, they had casting agents that reached out. I mean, now in recent years, pumpkin carving has definitely, become more of the type of pumpkin carving that we do. That's out in, advanced pumpkin carving has become more popular. So there's more people. Even at the time, there was not too many people that had an online presence of pumpkin carving. So their casting agents kind of searched the web and talked around and was seeing who's doing these carvings and who's working in pumpkin. So they reached out to us, and I believe they're kind of always on the lookout for talented carvers.
That's amazing. What was your favorite part about being on Halloween Wars?
Um, I really enjoyed coming up with ideas, working with, each episode has a different challenge. So, coming up with ideas and themes to satisfy like the challenge of a fairy tale, and utilize the story of Jack and the Beanstalk, and create a whole scene where we're coming up with an installation utilizing pumpkin, cake, and candy to you know come up with an
Bring the story to life.
three-dimensional illustration that tells a story. Was really exciting, and kind of brainstorming on the possibilities of what we can do. Is certainly being introduced to cake and candy artists, because that's a medium that I've never worked in, and hearing how they would approach uh, creating for, a particular theme was really exciting.
Do you stay in touch with your teammates at all?
Yeah, on social media, to a degree.
I feel
Um,
like after you're not with them for a while, you just sort of get disconnected, right?
yeah, we do. I mean, that happens in a lot of facets nowadays, especially like with everything going on. It's we're like so connected through social media, but then there's we often that's the most we'll see of each other, especially if you live in different parts of the world, different parts of the country.
Of course. So you said on how, sorry, you said that you really loved the challenge and the creativity that came with Halloween Wars. Do you ever get an order where they're just like, I need 80 fairy tale pumpkins, and then you have to come up with the characters and everything?
Yeah, no, we certainly do. We get orders where, the content, the artwork, the image, or whatever is already kind of been decided on by the client, or by a team, and they really just want to translate it in pumpkin. And then we get orders where we need to do some art directing and come up with some ideas, and create mock-ups. So we do also create original content for clients as well.
I don't know if this is too personal, but do you have any kids and do they enjoy carving or doing art themselves?
Yeah, I have two we both have two kids each. I
Oh,
have two I have two twin daughters that are 3, and they're really excited about Halloween this year. They kind of get it now, and they know they're like into costumes and dressing up. So they know that daddy's a pumpkin carver, and they know that they go to school and daddy goes to pumpkin school, and daddy carves pumpkins. I have carved a pumpkin. They've sat with me while I've carved before, and I usually, I carve a pumpkin for them every year. And we've done some pumpkin painting with them.
my nephew is turning 3 right before Halloween, and
Uh-huh.
so I definitely get like he's more interested in Halloween. He's known his Halloween costume since the beginning of April. I'm not even joking you. He is so excited.
Nice.
So you are also a painter. What has
Hmm.
been your favorite painting that you have ever done?
Ooh, it's a hard question. I mean, I've done, it's similar to like, what's your favorite pumpkin? I have too many. I have a lot of favorites. I do, and similarly with painting, I do a number of different types of painting. Um, I create a lot of murals, and then I do, paintings in my studio, pieces on wood, and yeah, I mean, I really enjoy actually mural making and painting in public places. There's a performative aspect to it, and there's some challenges to it also. But working big, as well as kind of being in public and having some human interaction and public interaction while creating a work of art is really rewarding.
What is the largest mural you have ever had to do? Because, like on your website and your Instagram, I saw that you have these huge paintings that you've done, and they're beautiful. And so, what is the
Yeah,
largest?
the largest painting that I've done so far is a 4,000 square foot tunnel that I painted on the landing of it's a new bridge, the Governor Mario Cuomo Bridge. Some people still call it previously the Tappan Zee Bridge. Some people still call it the Tappan Zee Bridge. And I did a painting that it exists on multiple surfaces, as well as the ceiling of the tunnel of the bridge, on the Rockland County side of the landing, in New York.
Wow. Um, I will definitely have to go see that tunnel. That sounds absolutely amazing. Um, let's see. So you have your own website and business apart from Maniac Pumpkins. Can you tell us a little bit about what you do and how, if we wanted like a painting or something, how we would get in contact with you?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I do a variety of different types of artwork. I do a lot of mural painting. So, paintings directly on wall for, for businesses, for private clients, hotel lobbies, restaurants, uh, you know, bars, stores, venues. Um, yeah, I mean, I have a couple different styles that I work in. Um, Typically, I get inquiries from people that are interested, and if it's something that resonates or feels like a good fit, I can provide quotes and pricing for particular requests.
Of course. And if any of you want to learn more about Maniac Pumpkins or anything, I will have their website as long as their Instagram linked down below, and their Facebook if you have one. I'm only mainly
Mhm.
on Instagram. I'll
Yeah, we
check.
have Facebook too.
Okay, and then I will also put all of Chris's information and his partner Mark's. You did say that you might have a pumpkin that you would like to show us.
I wanted to show you. So we're right now, at the Pumpkin Studio. Behind me is a selection of a number of pumpkins that we have in inventory. We get our pumpkins, from multiple farms in the local tri-state area, a lot in New York and New Jersey. So yeah, behind me is a bunch of the pumpkins that we have in stock, and there's more to either side of this frame. But we're always going through pumpkins like on a weekly basis. We're carving dozens of pumpkins, and then we're getting more pumpkins coming in on a weekly basis that we have to clean and store, and we have different sizes that we work in. So it's a multi-pumpkin event. So right behind me, we have some of my specimens.
How many pumpkins do you normally have in your warehouse at a time?
I would say we probably have about 50 right now. And we usually have, about 50 to 100 pumpkins, in our inventory. Sometimes we'll like go through the majority of those pumpkins, and then the following day we'll get another 50, 60 pumpkins. So, we typically have, dozens of pumpkins here, and then sometimes we really load up before we have some big orders. And of course, as it gets closer to Halloween, we get more and more orders, and it gets busier and busier.
I bet.
So yeah, as a pumpkin carver, carving pumpkins usually involves incorporating tools that are usually used for other things, such as one of the fundamental tools for the type of pumpkin carving that we do with the etching style is our linoleum cutters. These are typically used for cutting, linoleum blocks and rubber blocks and doing printmaking type work. They're also similar to wood carving tools that we also use, various chisels and tools that are usually for carving wood work very well on pumpkin. And then there's tools that you'll find, a lot of sculptors use for clay, such as clay loops, that work very well on pumpkin. We use this both for relief etching style as well as sculptural styles of carving. So these work very well on pumpkin, as well as a variety of kitchen knives and tools and utility knives, melon ballers, stuff that are usually used for other things in the kitchen and other things in the art studio.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And people get pretty inventive too. There's you can carve a pumpkin with the back of a hammer if you didn't have any other tools. So people get pretty creative with what can be done with pumpkin, and it's really exciting just to kind of see what everybody does and experiments with. So right now, where I'm at with this pumpkin is I've scooped it. I've scooped the pumpkin from the back. You know, I cut a hole in it.
Oh, I've never
I cut
thought
like
about.
a geometric shape out of the back. And the reason I did that is because, you know, most people are familiar with cutting the hole around the stem and lifting the stem up like a lid. And that, on one hand, it makes kind of sense why you would do that. However, you know, the stem is still kind of like providing structural support for the entire pumpkin. So when you remove that, it's almost like removing the center of an umbrella. You know, that's the middle of the umbrella is holding all the rest of the umbrella together. So the stem is doing that in a similar sense. When the pumpkin starts to break down, it's going to break down a lot quicker if you remove the stem. And then it'll also, you know, start to implode from the top first. That's why the lid usually falls through when you cut the top off. But yeah, we cut the back off. And as you can see, you know, this is the back of the pumpkin, and this is the pulp. So it's kind of, it has some, you know, this one's kind of thick. And sometimes we're looking for a particularly thick pumpkin, especially depending on the type of art we're doing. And a good indication of how thick the pumpkin is usually by how thick the stem is. So if it has a thick stem, it's usually a good indication that, you know, the pumpkin's a thick one also. So, you know, of course I scooped the guts out already. And that, you know, that's one part that usually makes or breaks people's desire to carve a pumpkin. Some people don't like scooping, but we scoop our own pumpkins. Sometimes we have other people scoop our pumpkins for us too, when we're carving hundreds of pumpkins.
I would have.
So yeah, I mean, you know, we draw our designs out first with ballpoint pen on the pumpkin, and you know, really going in with a plan is definitely, you know, a good way. You could kind of experiment and just see what happens. But even with jack-o'-lanterns, drawing the faces out first with pen, and then, you know, carving into that helps you approach it. Because once you're against the pumpkin really close, especially for bigger pumpkins that are round, you know, you forget kind of where you really want to position your features or your design. So I drew it out first, and then, like, you know, as I mentioned, using a linoleum cutter, I etched into the pumpkin, and it removes, like, I'll show you what it looks like up close. So, you know, when you slice it out, it kind of produces these little thin strips of like linguine shaped pumpkin. And you know, this is a particular nib that I'm using, so different nibs produce different results, of course. And then, you know, the idea is the deeper I go into the pumpkin, the more light that's going to come out. So it's kind of almost like an inverted process. It's similar to different kinds of painting and watercolor painting, except you know, the deeper I go, the thinner the pulp is in that area, and the more light that's passing through.
Do you keep a picture next to you as reference, or is it just a ballpoint? Oh, all right.
No. Yeah, having a reference is definitely very helpful and usually necessary to, you know, accompany the carving. Especially, you know, initially we work on the carving with the lights on so we could see what we're doing. And then later on, we dim the lights and, you know, resume carving into it. So it usually helps to have some sort of frame of reference, either on our iPad in front of us or like printed out while we're working on the carving.
So do you use tools like drills as well, or just things that are less risky?
Yeah, not too frequently do we use power tools. We have used power tools on pumpkin before, and you know, tools like Dremels, like little small tools also. They're very handy for the styrofoam pumpkins, but for real pumpkins, blades and like more handheld tools work a lot better. But we've tried using, like, you know, a variety of power tools also. Usually power tools come in handy when we're building, you know, a structure that we're going to position the pumpkins on.
So, do you find carving styrofoam pumpkins easier or harder than a real pumpkin?
In certain ways, it can be more challenging. One of the main ways it is more challenging is that we have to suit up in like respirator masks and like kind of cloth has almost hazmat suits because it produces a fine powder when you're working on it, so it's not good to breathe in. So like usually, and it gets very messy, so we usually have to create kind of almost a sterile environment and always like be like fully like respirator mask and suited up to work on them because they're very messy. Pumpkins, we can hang out and like carve our pumpkins, and it's not, we're not worried too much about the dust going up in the air. But they're still kind of fun to work on. We do enjoy them, but 90% of the work we do is still in real pumpkins.
I figure that you have a lot of trash, like with all of your carvings and such. Where do you keep all of that? Like, do you have a dumpster come by, or because I feel like that would be very, very messy.
Definitely, and I mean that's often been a big challenge in the past to figure out where we're going to put our garbage, and usually finding out where we can dispose of the pumpkin guts in an eco-friendly manner. So in the past, we've always been able to find a local farm in which we can take the guts to compost. This year, we're in a new location, so we'll have to find somewhere close, or we'll bring the guts to a local farm that we're familiar with at some point.
Nice. What has been your like favorite place that you have um, gone for an event for your pumpkin carving?
I mean, one of my favorite places to carve is Luna Park in Coney Island in Brooklyn. Um, it's an amusement park. On the West Coast, you could maybe like compare it to the amusement park at Santa Monica or like at Santa Cruz. It's a little bigger. It's older. It's really is the original amusement park. A lot of the original rides like Ferris wheels and roller coasters and amusement park rides were like created and engineered and pioneered at Luna Park. And it has an interesting atmosphere. A lot of strange people, and they have us carve a giant pumpkin every year, about a 2,000-pound pumpkin, every year at Luna Park that we usually team up on. Mark and I will work on it. We have another carver named Lenny Calvin that we'll work with. We might be working with a new carver this year. So it's always like a two-person kind of job over the span of a day. And it's a great atmosphere to carve. But I've also, it's been fun. We've carved a lot in Manhattan, like in the city in Union Square, and definitely being in the heart of the city in a place like Union Square where people from all walks of life are kind of passing through presents, just a lot of interesting interactions. And again, like I said, carving in public, making art in public is kind of a form of performance art in addition to visual art. So there's a component of that that's satisfying also.
Would you ever consider like branching out your company to places like all across the world, or do you like staying in the New York state?
Yeah, I mean, in the past we've done a lot of work. We have done work on the West Coast, and we typically do travel and or staff for various parks, and various events throughout the country. It's we've been presented certainly with much more challenges in the past couple of years since COVID. But so we're certainly much more local this year and last year in terms of not traveling too far. However, we did kind of pivot a little bit given the circumstances, and that now provide virtual classes and virtual demos. And so, we're teaching classes as well as giving demonstrations in multiple time zones, our home, from both our pumpkin studios and our home studios. So like now we've kind of entered a different space that, is certainly virtual, but we're able to travel from New York to California to Florida to Europe to, certainly kind of wherever there's a demand for that type of thing. And yeah, it's interesting. I mean, there's a lot. I love kind of in-person interactions, but I won't deny that, we're still able to connect as people virtually, as you and I are right now, and, connect with people and learn from other people, as well as, offer workshops and lessons and things that we're good at. So yeah, we have, in a sense, we've both been a little bit more confined given some challenges, but we've also branched out and almost transcended it all recently. But yeah, so we do have a lot of clients, throughout the country as well as Canada, and other parts of the world that we work with.
If someone would want to sign up for a class or a workshop, how would they do that?
You can sign up. There's a link on our website, maniacpumpkincarvers.com. I believe there's a link up. If there's not a link up, it will be up very shortly, on, how and where you can sign up to take a class.
Great, and I'll link your website and everything down below this video so that everybody can see it, because
Excellent.
this is just amazing just to watch. It's very interesting.
It's cool, yeah. And I mean, the types of classes that we give, typically some of the more popular classes that we offer are a little bit more family friendly. So, not necessarily super advanced. We do offer advanced carving classes, but a lot of the classes that we offer are somewhat for all ages, and, often include kits that we put together that include various craft material also. And then we walk through like some fun designs, but some more like kind of beginner intermediate designs. And then we also offer tips and talk about some more advanced techniques that you can do also.
Wonderful. So obviously you are very into Halloween, as you did start this amazing business. But what is your favorite part about Halloween? When you're not carving, what do you like to do with your family, or what do you like to do by yourself?
Yeah, I mean, I love the aspect of Halloween that's creative. Even when you're buying your own if you're making a costume, that's amazing. If you're buying your costume and that's fun, that's amazing. It's like a game of dress up that we're all playing together. And the different customs are a lot of fun. I love how it's kind of also a celebration of popular culture, and people dressing up from different characters from their favorite movies or their favorite books. I have a family now, so I have two small children, and they're really excited about Halloween this year and dressing up. Unfortunately, our season is so busy, and this is, of course, also a business for us. So unfortunately, we don't get to celebrate Halloween as much as we'd like. We're kind of working and celebrating Halloween for like 6 weeks. But, at the very end on Halloween, there's usually, we were usually very busy until the day before Halloween, depending on what day of the week Halloween falls on. And, by the time Halloween is over, it's like we're ready to crash.
Of course. Do you do themed costumes in your family, or do you all just dress up as different things?
I mean, growing up, I feel like I have two brothers, and we kind of, dressed up as different things that we were into. I have twin daughters, so they tend to, they're very different, but they tend to want what the other wants. So if one of them wants to be a unicorn for Halloween, The other one's going to want to be a unicorn too. So they're both being unicorns. And so I don't know how I can incorporate that. I mean, I would have to be a unicorn or like maybe a unicorn tamer, but there's definitely going to be glitter involved, and I'll just have to play ball with that. Got the other one off. Yeah.
Wow, that looks so cool.
Yeah, it's you know, you could see in here in the highlights, it's like a canyon.
Yeah, it really is.
So that's Carnage from the new Venom movie.
Wonderful.
That's out in theaters this month. And yeah, I hope everybody has a very happy Halloween and celebrates, and I encourage everybody to carve a pumpkin.
Well, thank you so much for doing this, and thank you all for watching. Just as a reminder, this month is Cancer Awareness Month, so if you do want to donate, all the proceeds will go towards finding a cure for cancer and providing packages to cancer patients in the hospital who need them. So if you can donate, please do. Any way that you can help would be truly appreciated. So have a wonderful day. If you want to donate, please visit www.performerswithpurpose.com. Thank you for watching. My name is Mackenzie, and this is International Cultural Arts Program. Thank you so much, Soria and Maniac Pumpkins, for being a part of this, and I will see you all soon. Bye.
Thank you.